is the caveman back at it again with another video. It feels so good to be back home recording how I usually do. It feels so good that it is Victory Monday and we saw a Buffalo Bills team come together like we knew that they could all along. Big Daddy Josh Allen went to town yesterday afternoon and it felt amazing. But before we recap week number 3, you guys know the drill around here. Mata applesauce. If you're ever hungry, thirsty, whatever it might be, Mata applesauce will satisfy whatever satisfy you need to satisfy. The caveman guarantee, I promise it will never fail you. Let's get into week number 3. Like I said, I am finally home and I have tons of energy because it feels so damn good to be back at home in my room recording videos how I usually do. I can edit the way I like to. It just feels so much better. And on top of the fact, like I said, it's Victory Monday. The Buffalo Bills played fantastic yesterday against the Washington football team. What is there not to be happy about right now? One quick thing on a serious note before we jump into it. Brian Daboll did lose his grandmother earlier in the week. I'm not exactly sure when it was, but according to Josh Allen, Brian Daboll's grandmother pretty much raised Brian Daboll. So she was a very large part of his life. So that's a really tough thing to go through and I feel really bad for them. Prayers go out to the Daboll family. Josh Allen after the game said that he played his ass off for his grandmother. So that was really a heartwarming feeling. You could really see the family bond. It's just so strong in that locker room. The relationships and the memories that I'm sure they formed up to this point, they're probably so unbreakable and you could just see that day in and day out. And this is just another example of these guys bonding together when they need each other the most. So that's a really, really nice thing to see. But prayers go out to the Daboll family either way. I am so glad that the Bills were able to get a W in week 3 for Brian Daboll's grandmother. The Bills go out and defeat the Washington football team 43-21. We took the Washington football team to Pound Town. Aside from a fluke kickoff and like a fluky kind of screen pass to Antonio Gibson, we took care of business against the football team. They really were never in the game to begin with. We were clicking on all cylinders. And let me tell you, before the season started, this was a game that I was really, really worried about. I had this game circled on my calendar because I was truly worried that this could be a trap game for the Buffalo Bills. My thought process before the season started about this game was that it was a game we absolutely should be coming out with a win in, but still, I just had a thought in the back of my mind telling me that there's a chance that we could come out on the wrong end of things. Mind you, these are my thoughts before the season. Ryan Fitzpatrick has the capability to play like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Given any Sunday, that dude could ball out. He's got Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson, Logan Thomas. He's got some solidified weapons around him. Not to mention, you're pairing that with one of the most dominant defenses in the NFL. It was a scary team to think about going into the season. Obviously, a lot has changed since then. Ryan Fitzpatrick got hurt. That football team defense has not looked what we all thought it would look like. A lot of things have changed for that team, and I've been pulling for them. Going into the season, I really wanted them to do well, but it's just not looking good with the way things have played out. Speaking of things not playing out the way we thought they'd play out, the first 2 weeks of the season, at least in my opinion, the Buffalo Bills just did not look right, specifically Josh Allen and the offense, and we found our rhythm in week 3. We took advantage of a Washington football team that was severely struggling, and we got back on track. Have a day, Mr. Joshua Allen. 5 total touchdowns, 4 through the air, 1 on the ground. Josh Allen went over 350 passing yards on the day, over 100 QBR rating. The dude had a monstrous day. He returned to MVP form. But most importantly, Josh Allen's confidence seemed to be rejuvenated against the football team. I've been preaching over the last couple weeks that Josh Allen just did not look right. He just didn't look confident. He looked like he was hesitating. He didn't know how much touch to put on the ball. He didn't know how much zip to put on the ball. He just really wasn't sure about himself. Since he overthrew Emanuel Sanders at the beginning of the Pittsburgh Steelers game in week 1, he just did not look himself, especially over the last couple weeks. It was a little bit worrisome. I can't lie. I was worried. But boy, oh boy, did Josh Allen get back on track this week. And he got a lot of help from his supporting cast around him, specifically from a new face in town. Emanuel Sanders, the veteran wide receiver we signed in free agency, had himself the best game as a Buffalo Bill. On 5 receptions, Emanuel Sanders was just under the 100-yard mark, but he also tallied 2 total touchdowns on the day. Emanuel Sanders had himself a fantastic day through the air. We knew what Emanuel Sanders had to offer. It was just a matter of Josh Allen and Emanuel Sanders getting on the same page, and I think that happened this past week. What Emanuel Sanders was able to do this week against the Washington football team was the exact element that I hope he'd bring to this offense. I'm not sure you remember, but Emanuel Sanders was one of the best second options in the NFL, one of the best receivers in the NFL through 2014 to 2016 when he played with Peyton Manning and Demaryius Thomas. He was one of the best second options you can ever come across. Granted, he was a little younger. He was still in his prime back in those days, but now I still think he could be that solid solid, almost elite second option alongside Stefon Diggs with Josh Allen. The rare event that Stefon Diggs gets slowed down, now we have Emanuel Sanders on the opposite side of the field to just tear it up. You can't focus on Stefon Diggs too much because Emanuel Sanders is going to torch you on the other side of the field. And if you focus on Emanuel Sanders too much, you got to focus on Stefon Diggs. It's just this element of offense that Sanders brings now that Diggs just doesn't have to absorb all the attention. If Sanders gets on the same page as Allen, it's going to be dangerous. So in the rare given event that Stefon Diggs is phased out, I'm hoping we can see Emanuel Sanders ball out just like he did this past weekend. And that's an element of the offense that I really think we needed, and it's going to be a huge boost going forward. And not to mention, with the emergence of Emanuel Sanders, the other options on the offense really flourished as well. Cole Beasley was still very heavily involved in this game. He actually had himself a very nice game as well. But I think with Emanuel Sanders starting to draw a lot more attention, it just made that much more room for Cole Beasley and even for Dawson Knox, who I really cannot believe I'm saying this, has been playing really well for the first 3 games. So now in the rare event that Stefon Diggs and Emanuel Sanders have all the attention drawn to them, Cole Beasley, Gabe Davis, Dawson Knox, they're all going to be able to go nuts now. This offense, it's got so many different levels to it. There's so much talent in the pass catching category, it's really hard to guard them all. And like I said, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Dawson Knox has really been playing well. I can't believe I'm saying it. I can't believe he's been playing as well as he has. I bashed the table for an upgrade all offseason. I could not stand the idea of Dawson Knox being out in the field anymore. I'm starting to eat my words. I will not fully finish eating my words until I see a full season of good production from him, but still, up to this point, I gotta give him credit. The last thing I'm gonna say about the offense, which is a slight negative, it's not really even a negative. I mean, it's just not the most positive thing I'm gonna say throughout this video. On the offensive line, it looks good. It held up really well against that Washington football team defensive front, but I think a lot of people are giving them a tiny bit too much credit. I still think there's some concern to be had with the offensive line, even after this week. We really did hold up well against one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. You know, I'm not going to take that away from them by any means, but I do think the struggles with the Washington football team were a big reason for that. I think their defense is just not playing to the level that they all thought they'd be. Only 1 week ago, we saw the Washington football team take down the New York Giants by 1 single point. In a game where I really thought the Washington football team defensive front would cause a lot of havoc, they really didn't do much at all. I mean, the Giants offensive line, it's beat down, it's hurt, it's not very good, and I thought that Chase Young, Montez Sweat, that young defensive line would go crazy against an offensive line like that, but they really were phased out. So basically what I'm trying to say is I think the offensive line did their job, but I don't think they did any more than that because I think the Washington football team defensive front is really struggling, especially as of late. So even after a good game against the football team, I still have my eyes on the front 5. I still think there's concern to be had with those guys up front, but they did have a good game. No more to take away from them. Let's move on to the defense. We had the Washington football team offense in a box. We had them locked up. We had them in a snuggie. They had nowhere, and I mean nowhere to go. Like, we played lockdown. Like, the definition of blanket coverage, the definition of lockdown, the definition of putting an offense in a box. We did that, and it was so freaking awesome. You could tell Taylor Heinicke just didn't know where to go or what to do because our coverage was just unbelievable. I mentioned it earlier. Aside from a couple fluke plays throughout the game, I don't think the Washington football team scores a single touchdown. Aside from the one they scored at the very end of the game, they probably have like 10 points at most if they didn't have those 2 fluke plays. I mean, what kind of kickoff takes a backspin? Like, what kind of bullshit was that? But, you know, whatever. It didn't really matter. And Antonio Gibson had a good run to the house on that screen pass. You know, credit to him. But aside from those 2 plays, they really were not in the game like at all. We took away every single option that Taylor Heinicke had. Logan Thomas was like a non-factor. Terry McLaurin was a non-factor. Antonio Gibson, aside for that big screen pass, was a non-factor. They really had no way to move the ball. 3 turnovers this week. Count it. 3 total turnovers. 2 picks for the Bills defense. 1 fumble recovery. They played lights out. There's really not much else to say about it. It was a complete team effort on the defensive side of the ball. They played fantastic. But I do gotta say it. Although I see this game as a very big positive, as it was, you know, there's really not much negative to take from this game, but I watch every game as subjective as possible. There's still some negative to take out of every game. As great as the defense played, there was no pass rush. Like, none. It was non-existent. The pass rush was nowhere to be found. We brought Taylor Heinicke down to the ground just a single time, and I really don't even think we ever got pressure. Like, I honestly can't recall. I can't even remember the sack, to be quite honest. Like, I don't remember getting pressure on Taylor Heinicke at all. There were numerous occasions yesterday where I was thinking to myself, like, holy shit, Taylor Heinicke's been standing in the pocket for like 5 or 6 seconds now, and he has not had to move. Like, there were a lot of different opportunities for Taylor Heinicke to find guys down the field, but thank God our coverage just played as well as it did because our pass rush holy shit, I mean, it was just not there. I've said it on this channel numerous times. I do believe that pass rush makes for good coverage. You know, if you've ever heard the argument of pass rush or coverage, which one do you think a defense should value more? I think it's pass rush. Still do believe that pass rush is what makes the most well-rounded defense that you could possibly have. But still, yesterday I was shown that coverage alone, literally coverage alone, can win you a football game. Because, I mean, they play lockdown. I've never seen nothing like it, honestly. Although, I really, really hope we're able to find that balance between pass rush and coverage. Because we can't be playing coverage like that every single week. There's just no way. Better quarterbacks, better offenses, better teams, they're going to pick apart zones like that. They're going to pick apart our defense a lot easier than Taylor Heineke can. Before going against Patrick Mahomes in that situation, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, you know, Dak Prescott, any of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL, they're going to pick apart a coverage no matter how good it is if you give them all that time. I mean, Taylor Heineke's a little bit different of a story, but you give any other elite quarterback all the time that we gave Taylor Heineke, they're going to eventually pick us apart. So hopefully, a little farther into the future, we'll be able to balance a very good pass rush with a very good secondary and some great coverage. Hopefully, we're able to put the two pieces together because I don't want that to be a reoccurring problem. We saw that last year where our pass rush was just pretty much non-existent. Hopefully, that's fixed. We all thought it kind of was in the preseason going out throughout the first 2 weeks. Let's hope it's not another issue. But that's about all I got in week 3. Wow, I mean, we got back on track. Seeing Josh Allen ball out the way he did, it just felt great. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. Josh Allen, I mean, we all live and breathe Josh Allen as Bills Mafia, and it just felt so great to see him thrive once again. And dare I say it, it finally looked like we put together that lockdown 2019 defense with that unbelievable 2020 offense. It finally looked like we put those two pieces together, and that's what we all thought this team would be in 2021, and finally we got our first glimpse of that. Hopefully we'll be able to carry that momentum into the future. Bills moved to 2-1 on the year. We play against the Houston Texans in week 4. That's going to be an absolute barn burner, but any thoughts you have, leave them down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, as always, please like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff. You want to hit the bell to be notified when I upload. I'd appreciate that. You're going to go over to Twitter, follow me over there. I'd appreciate that as well. I'm a part of the Built in Buffalo content creation team. If you enjoy Buffalo Bills content, be sure to follow and subscribe to us on any social medias you might have, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.